Is my mic okay? All good? Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live stream and educational workshop. I am here with Southern Caregiver Research Center, and my name is Santiago Cullingford. I am the community educator for this wonderful organization. I would like to thank you so much for joining us today and watching this month's live stream. Today, we'll be talking about gratitude and shifting your mindset. I am really excited about today's live stream event because it's a topic that is not usually embraced in our society. Today, we'll be talking about caregiving related to our mental stability and their connections to our emotions and thoughts. In my personal opinion, I think we're at the right time of year to learn about gratitude as a caregiver since holidays are almost here. And as we know, the holidays coming up, we're going to be spending a lot of time with family and our loved ones, right? So that's why what today is all about learning how to control our thoughts and emotions and shift our minds to a positive place, right? Shifting your mindset as a caregiver. I think we can go with the next slide and start with the learning objectives for today. So the learning objectives of today, first, we're going to learn how our thoughts can affect our emotions. That's really, really important. The second thing is we're going to learn how most common causes of anger and frustration as a caregiver. Caregiving is a really, really heavy role, and it takes a really big toll on our mental stability. So we're going to learn about a lot of causes of anger. Another thing that we're going to learn is changing our negative thoughts to positive thoughts, right? We're going to make sure that we're staying in a positive mindset. So we're going to learn how to do that. And last but not least, we're going to learn how to be thankful and also the importance of reducing stress as a caregiver because stress is really, really harmful for us. And we got to learn how to be thankful for the things that we have right now. And at the same time, how to reduce stress with our gratitude. So moving on to the next slide. This might be a little complicated, so hopefully you guys can bear with me and then just listen and try to understand. So human emotions are really tough, right? So human emotions and thoughts don't respond to a situation or the words and actions of another person, but how we perceive that situation or that person's actions, right? So we are not affected by outside environment, but how we intake that outside environment, that's how it affects us. It is how we see something and how we see somebody that we think about it, and then it influences how we feel. It is our thoughts and our beliefs about an event or about a situation that significantly influences our emotions and actions. And also, this happens due to automatic thoughts. Going on to the next slide, I will be explaining what an automatic thought is. So just like driving, right? So an automatic thought. Some of us thinking it's so habitual that it's an automatic, just like driving. So when you're driving in a car, you're getting from the office to home, right? So you get in the car and then all of a sudden you're home. What just happened? It is such an automatic thought that you just get in the car and you don't even think about it and you're driving and then you're there. You don't even think about it, right? So when things are automatic, we might not fully be conscious of them. And all the times our brains are turning over thoughts and ideas. However, we're not consciously aware of them because they happen so relatively fast. It happens so fast that it just goes through our mind and then we do it and then it's over. So we're not used to slowing down our thoughts. We're not used to slowing down our emotions and taking the time to think about it. Our automatic thoughts, however, they play a really important role in our emotional well-being. In a situation where things could get complicated, maybe we're having a conversation with our friends and we get into an argument, right? We're not taking the time to read their point of view. We're just listening, intaking, and then reacting to whatever is going on. So we definitely need to stop our automatic thoughts and take a moment to breathe, to understand what's going on, and see the point of view of other people, an outside perspective. Moving on. So here we have a cognitive triangle. And in this cognitive triangle, we have three sides, and each side is a different strata of our mindset. So we have thoughts, we have behaviors, and we have emotions. The first thing that I want to clarify are that feelings are not thoughts. Whatever you may be feeling doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing that you're thinking. And also vice versa. The same thing that you're thinking does not have to be the thing that you're feeling. So when we first try to distinguish thoughts from feelings, it can be really easy to confuse them. We might not be used to talking about our thoughts and feelings as being part of the same experience, but it is more helpful to separate them and remember that feelings are not thoughts. And also, I want to add that behavior, right? However we're thinking, whatever we're feeling, will affect our behavior and even other things. For example, in our behavior, how we're talking and the tone that we're talking. If we're in a bad mood, then our tone is going to be more aggressive. It's going to be more rough. If we're in a happy mood or in a calm mood, our behavior is going to be more calm, right? So these things do affect each other, but they're not the same thing. Moving on to our negative thoughts. So negative thoughts equals negative feelings. When you feel stress, it is helpful to pay attention to your thoughts and feelings. In general, your feelings are linked to your thoughts, as we already said before. The way that you think about something directly affects the way you feel about it. When people feel stressed, it is difficult to notice the thoughts that you're having since they happen automatically, like we already said before. If these thoughts are negative or unhelpful, it can make you feel worse. The first step of improving your mood is to stop and notice what you're thinking or what you're saying to yourself in that moment. Sometimes it helps to think of an imaginary mirror right in front of you. So imagine that you're saying these things to yourself like you would be saying to somebody else. Would you be happy if you came about somebody and with that tone, with that aggressiveness, with that behavior? So sometimes it's better to step back a little bit, take a breather, see what are you thinking, what are you feeling, what is going on around you, and then coming back and recentering yourself, right? That always helps out. Let's talk about an example. Next slide. So here we have an example that we use on our Calma classes, on our Reach to Caregivers Calma classes, and this is a really, really great example. So in this example, we have Lydia and David. So Lydia is providing care for her husband, David, who he has Alzheimer's disease. Although David can still take care of some of his own basic needs, as we know with Alzheimer's, not necessarily will be a person would need complete care. Sometimes they can still be having their own basic needs, right? They can still do some of their own daily living activities. So he can't follow every single Lydia's instructions because he feels self-dependent. And in this situation, since David is not following Lydia's full instructions, Lydia thinks, David refuses to listen to me. Even though he is able to listen to me and understanding, he's working against me. He's purposely not following my suggestion. He doesn't appreciate me. He doesn't appreciate what I'm doing for me. And then she gets all this bad negative thoughts. And then what happens after? She feels frustrated and sad. So that's what she was thinking, and then that's what she was feeling. So that's why thoughts affect emotions, right? She thinks all this negative thing. She took the behavior personally. So when it comes to Alzheimer's disease and other related dementias, a lot of the behavior can be taken personal, which is not a good thing. The disease takes over control of the brain, and unfortunately, it could appear as if someone is doing bad aggressive behavior on purpose, but it's not. So she in this case she took the behavior personally, and then she thought reached all these negative thoughts, and then she felt bad about it, right? So thoughts, feelings. So what I would have done, I would have taken a step back and see what is going on. Okay, so David is refusing to listen to me. Why is that happening? Maybe he's having a bad day. Maybe his disease is really heavy today, and he's not having a good time following instructions. Maybe let's try to cheer him up, changing the activity, changing the pace, right? Try to take a step back, analyze the situation, and then avoid having negative thoughts, because if we have negative thoughts, we're going to have negative feelings. So that has been the example of Lydia and David related to Alzheimer's disease. Moving on. So now we're going to talk about the common causes of anger as a caregiver. So it is common for caregivers to feel frustrated and angry as a result of the many, many, many responsibilities involved with caring for a loved one, right? When we become a caregiver, we're not just only the person in charge of them, we're the person in charge of the house, we're the person in charge of the family, in charge of cooking, in charge of cleaning, in charge of helping them use the restroom. So many responsibilities that come with it, and it could be frustrated, it could be angry, right? So here are some of the common causes of these feelings. So first and foremost, not having enough information or understanding of the disease of Alzheimer's or other related dementias. Not knowing enough about the disease that a loved one has and the symptoms of the behavior caused by the disease can cause frustration. Some caregivers may not understand why their loved one is able to do things very well and not able to do other things just as easy. So, for example, he can be having a full on conversation, but he can't do things like cooking anymore, or he can't do things like going to the restroom anymore, or maybe vice versa. They're able to fully do activities in their daily lives, but they're not able to have a full-on conversation, which is known to be easy, right? So definitely that can, not having enough information about the disease can be very frustrating. Another thing is your thoughts and attitudes. Another source of anger can be one's thoughts and attitudes about a situation. For example, caregivers may have an unrealistic expectations about how much care they can provide. When you become a caregiver, you believe that you can just do anything, you can do everything for them, right? You can just take care of them 24/7, and then you could just provide any help that they possibly need. But they don't realize how unrealistic that possibly is. They see themselves as failing, and if they require help, or sometimes they have negative feelings towards their loved one, so it can get really frustrating about being in the caregiver role overall. Next, we have a bad relationship in the past. So often the past relationships that a caregiver had with the person they care for can be the cause of anger and frustration, especially if there's a lot of conflict. In many situations, at least in our clients that we've seen in our company, a lot of the caregivers are family members, and a lot of the time these family members have had bad relationships in the past with their loved ones, so they end up being in this caregiver role, right? So let's say, for example, I have to take care of my mom, and I've had a really bad relationship with my mom. So then it's going to be really tough to be a caregiver and have to live with that on an everyday basis and still have to take care of that person. So it's going to be really tough, right? For example, another example is if a wife is caring for a husband who at one point had romantic affairs outside the marriage, or maybe a daughter who is caring for the mother who was physically abusive to her. It could be really tough being a caregiver knowing that this happened in the history, in the past, right? Caregivers in these type of situations may resent having to make some sacrifices to care for someone who once hurt them. It's really tough to do things like this. They might even want to find ways to still discuss about this past conflict with somebody who has dementia. So that's really tough. And they may not be able to completely take care of their loved one how they would normally do in a non-conflict situation. And then the last point that I want to talk about is not getting enough help. One of the most common causes of anger and frustration for caregivers is not getting enough or any help from family or friends. A lot of the time, the caregiving role is a lonely one. It's a solitary one, and this can be especially difficult for caregivers who come from large families. In a moment, we'll talk about how you can get more of the help that you need with Southern Caregiver Resource Center. Moving on to the next slide. Sorry about that. So, caregiver statements. Have you ever thought this way? It is completely normal to think this way, right? So, here are some of the examples. They are acting this way on purpose. So, some caregivers believe and think that because they have a disease such as Alzheimer's, they have the right to act this way on purpose. And as we know, it is not true. Alzheimer's, unfortunately, is a disease that takes over, and it's really hard to not take behavior personally. Another one is my loved one understands what they're doing and enjoys pushing my buttons. It is so embarrassing. My neighbors must think that I'm the worst person in the world. Or, for example, even the last one, I don't understand why my loved one behaves this way. A lot of these statements come with a lot of lack of information about the disease. So number one thing that we want to know is recognize that we cannot take the behavior of someone with Alzheimer's or dementia personally. We cannot take their behavior personally because it's the disease talking, it's not them, right? So definitely some of the things to take in mind when becoming a caregiver. Next slide. So now we're going to be changing, I've talked about a lot of negative things. So now we're going to be learning how to change all these negative thoughts and feelings to a positive feelings. So what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Sometimes, as I already said, is best thing to do is to take a step back and reflect. So the first step is to notice the current thoughts that are causing your bad feelings. This is often happens so quickly with automatic thoughts, as we already said, that one is unaware of the thoughts that occur between the stressful event and the bad feelings. So first we want to stop and think, what is going on? The second step is to challenge and replace unhelpful thoughts with more helpful ones by looking at the event in a different point of view. So sometimes it's you know how you can think outside the box, right? So sometimes a better perspective will be an outside perspective. Not all of the time, but if you're having a trouble with a situation and you're having unhelpful thoughts, it's better to just take an outside look on the situation. Try to think as a third person in the room and how they would see the situation, because you will see a situation in one point of view, the other person will see the situation in another point of view, but it's always good to have a third outside view, right? And the third step as well is to pay attention to how you feel now and how you feel the situation. So just as the same thing that you want to make sure that you're feeling and thinking in a positive outcome, we want to take a step back and just see how you feel. All right, this situation is making me angry. Maybe it's time that I step back from the situation, think about it, and then recenter myself, right? All right, moving on to the next slide. Challenging your thoughts. Challenging your thoughts can be difficult at first, but with practice, you will find that it's a useful method to reduce stress and improve your mood. The following list that I said right here is a list of techniques to challenge negative thoughts or unhelpful thoughts. So as we said, if you're having negative thoughts, you're going to have negative feelings. So we have to challenge them. The first thing that we want to do is to look at it from a different point of view, as I already said. Talk to yourself as if someone who cares about you is talking to you. So imagine yourself in your friend's shoes, in your best friend's shoes, or in your mom's shoes, or in someone different that cares about you is. So then you're gonna put yourself in those shoes and then talk to yourself from that point of view. Number two is ask others. Some caregivers find it helpful to ask others what they think to help challenge and their own helpful thoughts. So just always asking for an outside perspective, right? And number three, change what you say to yourself. We often create negative statements for others and ourselves without realizing that what we're doing. But we may also believe that we must behave, think, or feel a certain way, right? We believe that we're in this like straightforward line and we have to do this and we have to do this in a certain way, right? But caregiving is a really, really, it's a roller coaster. It goes everywhere. It could be different in every single point of view. So we want to make sure that we want to change what you say to yourself, keep yourself in a positive mindset, and then definitely just hang in there. Next one, we're going to be talking about managing caregiver anger. All too frequently, the rigors of caregiving combined with the erratic behaviors exhibited by older adults with dementia or older health conditions can lead to caregivers to feel the so-called negative emotions, right? When a family caregivers open up about their emotions, so when you ask a family caregiver how they're feeling, they're really quick to talk about their feelings of stress, sadness, depressions, and all these gloomy feelings. But something that you probably have not noticed is that they often don't talk about anger, and they don't talk about impatience, and they don't talk about the rage that they can flare up in an instant, right? So when you ask them how they're feeling, they feel like they can tell you that it's sad, that they're depressed, but they will never tell you that they were angry, that they're impatient with them, because it's a bad look on them. And what we want to do is we want to accept it. We're humans. We are allowed to feel angry. We're allowed to feel stressed. We're allowed to have a rage outburst. But as long as they're controlled and as long as they're managed properly and they don't become an issue, it is normal to feel this. So when someone asks you how you're feeling, and the reality is that you've been feeling rage, you've been feeling anger, talk about it. Maybe they'll be able to help you out. Maybe they'll reach their hand and say, "Maybe, oh, I've been going to anger management classes. Would you like to come with me?" You never really know. Sorry, you never really know until you get the help that you need. So definitely be quick. Be open about negative emotions such as caregiver anger, right? Because if it's not taken care of, it could be a really, really bad issue to your mental stability. Moving on. Other steps that we can do to take care of caregiver anger. So first and foremost, we want to forgive yourself. Don't expect yourself to always maintain a perfectly patient attitude. This is really unrealistic. Human beings are not perfect. We will never have a perfect attitude, right? We're not the perfect person, and we'll not have always a happy attitude about something. There's always something that's gonna make us mad. That's gonna make us impatient. That is gonna make us frustrated. Because we're allowed to feel like that, right? Humans have these emotions for a reason. So make sure that you forgive yourself when this happens. When you have a moment of anger or outburst, and then that moment has passed, forgive yourself for it. As long as you haven't hurt anybody, and as long as you haven't done anything that can be harmful for others, just forgive yourself. It was just a moment of anger, and then it has passed, right? This next one that I'm going to be talking about is really important, but at the same time, I want you guys to take it with a grain of salt. So think like a toddler, but do not treat your family member like a toddler. Toddlers display very self-regulation, and they cannot follow any type of complex logic. Seniors with cognitive issues such as Alzheimer's and related dementia may show symptoms of little self-regulation. And as I said, may, not all of the time. So the elderly that may have experienced Alzheimer's and dementia may think like a toddler in some type of way. They may exhibit this type of behavior. So in these situations, we want to redirect the attention to different things so we can work well, right? Just like a toddler, but at the same time, don't treat them like one. They're not a toddler. They have a disease. So make sure you are really aware of this. Another thing, and now in a more caregiver perspective, get something to eat. It might seem very simple, but low blood glucose levels can impair your coping ability. So this is partly due to a natural drop in your blood sugar levels that occur when a person has been eaten for a couple hours. So what we recommend is to eat something every 3 to 4 hours to keep your blood sugar levels. If we're caregiving too hard and we don't have time to eat and get a snack and get some sugar in us, we're gonna have a really hard time making logical decisions. So definitely we want to make sure we have a good coping ability by keeping our blood sugar at a normalized level, right? And then last but not least, the best thing that we recommend is just to take some time off, right? So often impatience and anger can stem from exhaustion and frustration. So caregiving can sap your strength mentally and can have negative effects on your physical health. If it disturbs your sleep or if it disturbs your eating habits or basically your personal time, it will have a really heavy impact in your life. So for example, if other family members cannot take care of the caregiving duties, if you're alone in this caregiving duties, try considering hiring a care professional or try getting some respite. So you could recoup some peace of mind, you could regain your personal perspective again, and you could fill you up with a well of patience, right? We want to have that well of patience, that tank of patience basically full, right? Because if we're running out of patience, then we're going to have a lot of negative thoughts, we're going to have a lot of negative feelings, and it's going to impact our mental stability. So we want to make sure that we take some time away from caregiving so we can benefit both you and the senior, your loved one, right? Because if you're not caregiving really well, then you're not taking care of that person well. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you're also not taking care of someone else better, right? So take care of yourself before you take care of someone else. So take some time off. All right, moving on to the next slide. Being thankful. This is one of my favorite topics, to be honest. Gratitude is a crucial key to keeping a caregiver's life in balance. Gratitude is really, really important in a caregiver balance. In fact, numerous studies have shown that there's a direct link between gratitude and healthy and wellness and personal wellness. So if you have a lot of gratitude in your life, it can change your attitudes, it can change your expectations, and as well as your perspective as a caregiver. So practicing gratitude can positively affect our well-being as those who we care for, right? So an attitude of gratitude has proven to increase happiness, so has been proven to decrease depression, and also has proven to foster resilience as a caregiver, right? So all these positive, awesome traits as a caregiver that we want to have. So expressing our feelings of gratefulness induces the relaxation response, thus reducing stress and promoting better sleep. If we have better sleep, we're going to have a better day, right? So you might be thankful for your family, you might be thankful for your friends, you might be thankful for anyone around you that has probably helped you out. So anyone who's willing to support you from one day to the next, you want to make sure that you graciously accept their offers. If someone is offering you help, accept the help. It is really, really hard for caregivers to give help than receive it, right? So these times when caregivers are too overwhelmed and not they don't really know how to respond to a friendly solicitation, and even it gets to the point when if someone asks you for help, they're like, how can I help you, what can I do for you? You might have a really hard time telling them what to do because it's something that you do on a daily basis and don't really have space in your life for some extra help. So you want to make sure that you find some directions and what could be useful in your life. It could be as simple as, could you possibly go pick up the prescription medication at the pharmacy? That's something that they could do. Or maybe could you just help me out getting some groceries? Or maybe could you help me out folding my laundry, or something so easy that someone can help you out with as a care in a caregiving role. That will help you out so much in your wellness and your mental stability. It will increase your happiness. It will decrease depression and reduce stress, and even foster resilience, as we said. So definitely graciously accept offers of help, right? Do never say no to helping, because as a caregiver, we need a lot of help, right? Then moving on to the next slide. So reduce how does gratitude actually reduce stress? So when we practice gratitude, we can fully enjoy being in the moment, right? With our loved ones, and an increased awareness on personality traits of the capabilities remaining. So what this basically means is that when we're in a caregiving role, there's always gonna be a negative, right? And definitely we want to avoid it, and we don't want to be thinking about it. So what we want to do is we want to live in the moment. We want to be grateful of what's going on right now. So we want to be thankful of the capabilities of the person who's sick, what they have remaining. If they're able to still have a conversation, then we have to be thankful that they're still able to have a conversation with their family. Maybe they can't have a conversation, but you can spend some nice quiet time with them. They're not aggressive. Be grateful that you can still spend time with them. Or maybe you can still enjoy listening to music together, because as we know, Alzheimer's and dementia patients respond really well to music therapy. So definitely be grateful that they can have a good time with them and listen to music, or maybe watching their favorite cartoon or show. So definitely be grateful of the things that you still have at the moment, and don't be sorry of what you used to have or what's coming on in the future. Live in the moment. We can also be thankful and acknowledge their existing strengths and abilities. As I just we said, we can always find something to which we can be thankful for, right? And then the next and last slide, I want to talk about a closing exercise. This is really, really important, and I heavily recommend to our viewers right now to practice this. Maybe do this today or any time that you have free. So what we want to do is you you want to start your day and dedicate 5 minutes a day on personal reflection. So a full day, a full 24 hours has 1,440 minutes a day. So if you can spend only 5 minutes out of that 1,440, it will help you out in personal reflection. So you can write down your answers in a journal, on a piece of paper that you keep in a jar, or even a note on your phone. And when you write this down, and when you write these answers, you're giving yourself a record of happy memories in references of time, and maybe a time that you're having a hard stress time or hardships. You can always come back to these notes that you've written down, and then just try to relieve yourself, right? So for example, what is something that happened today that made you smile? Maybe your loved one had a very lucid maybe time, and you were able to have a full-on conversation with them, and that's something definitely that you want to be able to write down that you appreciate. Or maybe you were able to listen to their favorite song together and dance with them. Something that made you smile today, right? We want to write that down. Or maybe something that you're most grateful for at this moment. Maybe you have somebody helping you out in your caregiving role. Maybe you're really thankful for them. So you want to write that down. It's like, thank you for my sister for coming out and helping me out in the holidays to take care of my mom, for example. So write all of this down, right? So we can have a record of it. And then the third one, what is something challenging that you overcame recently, or who helped you out the most? Maybe, for example, your loved one exhibits symptoms of sundown syndrome really heavily. They got aggressive during the night, and then maybe you had a really challenging time, and then you overcame it by listening to their favorite music, or giving them a meal that changed their perspective on something. What happened? What did you do to overcome that challenge, right? So write that down. That also helps us out for next time that happens. You can reference it back. And also, what are you looking forward to? Maybe since it's the holidays, maybe you're with your loved one and you both are alone, and maybe their family told you that they're coming over for Christmas to spend time together. So are you looking forward to that? Or maybe you guys are traveling soon, or maybe you're just excited for the Christmas dinner. It could be as small or as big as you possibly want, as long as it brings you some joy, right? So we want to write all these things down so you can reference it. So all caregivers, even those who consider themselves to have a glass half full, because there's glass half empty people and glass half full people, or how they like to call it. So even if you are a glass half full mentality, you can benefit from this exercise. So by taking some time each day to recognize the best part of being a caregiver, you will reduce your own stress, and in turn, you're going to be a better caregiver. So with that, I'm going to conclude, and I'm going to move on to the next slide, which we'll be talking about Southern Caregiver Resource Center. So Southern Caregiver Resource Center, we offer free support services for family caregivers in the San Diego and Imperial Valley counties. So all of our services are free in English and in Spanish, and these are some of the services that we provide. We have short-term counseling, we have support groups, education and training, which is what I do. What I'm doing right now, I'm doing education and training, right? We have case management, employer resources, legal and financial consultations, right? Definitely, we have a lot of awesome resources that you can just call us out and find more about all these awesome resources. And even just to talk to someone who is specializing in caregiving, you could just talk to us. Really awesome. In the next slide, we're going to have our webpage and what we have in our webpage. So www.caregivercenter.org. We have things like the Caregiver Corner, which is a quick 1 minute, 2 minute video of different aspects of being a caregiver, right? And then maybe if you're a podcast person, you can turn it into our Let's Talk Caregiving podcast with our Vice President and CEO, Marta Rañon, and our CEO, Roberto Lasquez. So definitely they're really, really great podcasts. And maybe you're more interested in family caregiver classes, some of our other trainings that we've done. You can find those out in the YouTube that you're watching right now. If you go to our YouTube page, or simply in our Facebook on our webpage, you can find those. And then we also have a digital newsletter. If you're more interested in following up our upcoming events, you can sign up for the digital newsletter and just see what's going on with our programs, right? And then in the next one, if you're a social network, social person, you can find us out in Facebook and Instagram. Those are our most popular social networks. So Facebook and Instagram. We also have Twitter and YouTube, and then YouTube is where we can find all of our educational material. And then last but not least, there's a bigger link for our website, www.caregivercenter.org. So feel free to take a picture, and there's our phone numbers. Again, my name is Santiago Cullingford. I really, really want to thank you for your time and listening to this awesome, awesome presentation. And give us a call. Here's the phone number, 858-268-4432. So that's 858-268-4432. Just take a picture of the screen. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending this awesome December live stream. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful Hanukkah, wonderful holidays, and a really, really happy and exciting new year. We have a lot to come next year, right? So just tune in to our website for more services. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful rest of your year. Goodbye.